Let me introduce our next speaker, Oliver Liu.
Thank you. It's I find it's much more nerve controlling of nerves if I've got a drink in my hand. So I'll
You're
just.
not going to drink that, are you? You're not going to drink that.
Much easier if you've got a couple of rums under your belt and talking on AVA and doing this sort of stuff. But anyway, confessions. My funding sources are basically my own business, paid for me to be here. Equine Veterinary Dental Services. No other interest to declare. So basically, I graduated 24 years ago. Day after graduation, moved to Grafton for 2 years, but I never made it out. So that was back in when I was 21. Here I am in the middle here. Haven't changed much, put on about 30 kilos. But yeah, 1994. In that time, I've been working in mixed practice. The last 15 years, I've been doing a non-emergency elective equine practice. We also have our own brand of equine dental instruments, and we've been running equine dentistry and repro courses for vets. And we've had over 570 vets attend these courses, and it's been a great way to meet plenty of vets. But one of the things I learned from talking to these vets is that just how hard it is for people, these immensely talented and hard-working people, to stay in the game as being a private practitioner while trying to balance it with the rest of their life. And I guess they felt comfortable talking to me about their problems because I've been down a few dry gullies myself. Of my list of shame here is a suicide attempt in 2005, a divorce in 2000, well, that should have been 11, not 2001, partnership dissolution in 2012, and a good brush with bankruptcy, running a 3-vet emergency equine practice in that time. But all at the same time, we've been raising 3 boys who, have given me a lot of joy. It's been one hell of a ride, but I'm still in the game, and I look forward to another 24 years as a vet. And here's my partner here at Bain Fallon last year, Carolyn, who's been a great support to me. But one of the continual questions I have as I live my life and talk to a lot of vets throughout the year is whether we as a profession are really doing enough digging at the roots of these toxic weeds or problems threatening our profession, or are we merely snipping away at the leaves? And I watch these vets that continue to go on working extremely hard. I'm just going to flick through my notes here. I've lost my train of thought. Up to this one. Yeah, we all know that vet's a tough game. It's, work hard. We all want to grow up and help people to help their animals, basically, and think it's going to be a great life. But the truth of the matter is that within 5 years, 50% of vets will have left private practice. And the highlight for this, I guess the end result of just how hard a game is that we have this one vet suiciding every 12 weeks in Australia. So my proposal today is that we start using the 20-80 rule. And I say 20-80 and not 80-20 because I think we should be spending 20% of our time, resources and energy defining and describing the problems that we're battling in the profession, and the other 80% of our time, resources and energy working on the solutions. So I think we've got to really aggressively and tenaciously look for the solutions to the problems that are out there proving toxic to our profession. So let's just quickly list some of these problems. We've got the long hours and low pay, and that really makes it difficult for people to meet their social engagements, meet the needs of their partners and family in life. The next one is the unhealthy lifestyle that often is taken under the stress of trying to stay in the game, and instead of looking after our health and mental health and physical health, we sort of work these crazy long hours and then get tired and then reach for the closest nip of sugar or caffeine or maybe alcohol, to try and get us going and feel better. So that's a big issue. The third one being failing to seek help, especially physical. There was a study showed that the average injury for a large animal vet in Australia was a broken bone. The average time off work for that average injury was 1 day. Impressive. Failing to seek help for undiagnosed and thus untreated mental health issues as well. The fourth problem I just can't get my head around the massive waste of resources and government money in graduating 700 vets a year to be clinicians, only to see 50% of them gone within 5 years from that role that they were trained for. And despite all the 3 new vet schools and the record number of graduates, so many rural vet clinics especially are struggling to find vets to come and work for them, putting enormous stress on the vets who are already either the practice owners or the other vets working in those practices. The next one, number 6, the public perception that all vets are rich, and you know, they get a bit, some of the clients that is, get a bit upset and think we're money hungry, you know, grubs when we ask them to pay their bill. You know, that's an issue that's we all have to deal with, and it does affect our decisions at times. Number 7 is laypersons directly competing with vets whilst not having to have the level of accountability and regulation that we all have to deal with and pay for every day in our professional lives. Number 8 is the times we're living in. It's rapidly changing, and we no longer have the monopoly on animal health that we seem to have in the past. And I'm not sure if any of you remember at vet school where we used to make the joke that 70% of animals would get better on their own, so we don't have to study that hard for that topic. Well, guess what? We've got competition who are also onto that theory, and they're passionate paraprofessionals who are coming in to make animal health part of their living and career as well. So the only thing we're really going to have a monopoly on is the emergency after hours, right? So now let's look at some possible solutions. Number 1 is to possibly role model some other professions that have been through similar tough times with long hours, low pay, mental health issues, suicides, poor public perception. Maybe the human dentistry profession. Have we had a decent chat to them? See how they made their way through and came out the other side. The other one that springs to mind is the lawyers in Ireland who worked out they had a problem, and so they started developing these community pro bono law offices, legal offices, where the lawyers would donate 10% of their time to go and work in those pro bono clinics each week, and then they'd go back to their regular practices and they'd feel much better about charging properly for their regular clients. The clients who were eligible for the pro bono clinics were defined by Centrelink type criteria, and they're really the clients that we don't want in vet clinics anyway most of the time. So it could be a win-win, especially in the way that we can raise charges, we can raise wages, we can improve profitability, but it also can be a source of helping new graduates, undergraduates get those clinical skills that seem to be so hard to acquire these days with the animal ethics and whatnot that's restricting our practical learning capabilities at university. The second one is private practices possibly being paid by government to assist in biosecurity and disease surveillance. I've lost that one. And that's something surely worth looking at, given in the rural areas these practices trying to stay sustainable. And if we don't start looking at it now, how are we going to help those guys in the bush to keep going into the future? The other one would be looking at offering more and really promoting more preventative medicine animal health insurance to our clients, and it's especially so again in equine and rural practice where there's often not enough elective work to help service the demands of the emergency services in those practices. And this model is doomed to fail, and if these rural and equine practices fail, where are they going to go for work? They're going to go to the cities, and they might just have to set up a low budget, cheap vaccination van to sit outside the premium practice. And does that sound familiar? That seems to be a trend that may be happening right now. One of the other issues is that our funding for improving the mental and physical health of vets and nurses, there seems to be an issue in the funding and no one really wants to pay for it. So what I'm proposing is if there could be a levy of 0.5% on all the invoices generated by our wholesalers, that it's collected by the wholesalers, passed on to the vet, who then passes on to the client. So the client actually pays for these programs of 0.5% And in Australia, that would generate a pool of around $3 to $5 million a year that could be put into helping not only private practice vets, but also government, industry, all vets and nurses, because that's one thing that we really struggle with. So it's a small price to pay, and I think those clients, they'd be happier having, happy, productive, healthy vets looking after their beloved animals rather than stressed and burnt out. It might even save a life or two, but we need someone to initiate such a program, and that is the question: who would be the best association to initiate such a program? The next one, baking a bigger pie. Isn't it amazing that when there's a shortage, well, when there's abundance of resources and work around, everyone gets on fine, but when things get tight and there's a bit of a shortage, suddenly you see the dark side of people emerge and people get tense and don't want to share as much. And so why have vets fighting over a shrinking piece of pie? We need to be aggressively trying to make our pie bigger. So we need to be reclaiming and do whatever it can be done to reclaim lines of work such as equine dentistry, reproduction, parasite control in large animals, preg testing, spaying of cattle, small animal nutrition, chiropractic, small animal dentistry, physio, acupuncture. We need to show that vets are the premier service providers and also the best value for money. We've also got to increase our marketing and education of these and possibly employ some external help to do this, because we haven't got a very good track record in the past of doing it. Number 7, if I can just grab one more minute, is the laypersons performing acts of veterinary science. We cannot directly stop them, as John would know. We don't have any police to do this, but we could campaign and lobby over the next 5 to 10 years to try and make a more level playing field where laypersons would be required to have a licence akin to a fishing licence in New South Wales. It doesn't say whether they're good or bad, but they just need a public licence where they're listed as being a non-veterinary worker on animals. And part of the compliance for having that licence is that they need to keep records, and needs to have the client, the animal, the records, and a tax invoice, whether they charge for the job or not. The fellow competitors could be the ones to monitor the compliance in these requirements, and they'd have to know the acts of veterinary science and make sure that they do not perform acts of veterinary science. And once they see these loops and hoops that they've got to jump through, maybe they might start thinking it's not so easy just to go out and have a living working on animals, and they might go back to their old jobs. So I apologise for unleashing